And let me start with our slide. Could anybody please give me a hands up if you can see the slide? Okay, thank you. All right. So good evening again, and welcome to Data with Panda session 3. My name is Rajeshri, and I'm very happy to help you with all our journey of learning pandas together. So Pandas is the most powerful libraries for data analysis, and we've been trying to learn it since the last 2 sessions. Um, and we are continuing the journey for this session and one more. Before we get started, we'd like to thank JetBrains, who is supporting this course. So we are following the curriculum of JetBrains Academy. And according to their curriculum, we covered the first 3 topics in the last 2 sessions, which is Introduction to Pandas, the first step, and data preparation and data exploration, which is basically things like loading the data, the input data, cleaning it up, inspection, cleaning, and again, exploring the data. We also learned a little bit of data visualization, that is plotting charts, different types of charts using data. Today, we are going to continue to learn about data manipulation. This is a slightly broader subject, so we will try to cover some part of it today, and then the remaining things will be covered during the session for the next session. And Yeah, so a little bit about data manipulation. Data manipulation is basically, to simply say it, it's organizing and restructuring or transforming the data in such a way that it is easier to analyze it and interpret the data. Okay, so there are many concepts, and before we get started, I would just like to mention that throughout this and the next session, I'll be using an example of sales data. We will be doing more like a hands-on or a walkthrough of an example in PyCharm using the Gateway to Pandas course of JetBrains Academy. But you will also receive these slides in the form of PDF through our Slack channel. It will be shared in our Slack channel. Here I have taken a smaller version of the data set with just 6 rows, as you can see on the slide here. And this has been used as an example to show all the concepts and all the slides. Okay. So let me move on to the JetBrains interface, where we will go through the concepts along with an example of sales data. Okay, so I hope you're able to see the screen of PyCharm. Not now. Okay. All right. So this is basically at the background, you have PyCharm Community Edition, and we have installed the plugin of Gateway to Pandas course of JetBrains Academy. And here I have an example of a data set of sales data. So let me zoom in a little bit so it's clearly visible. Is it clearly visible for everyone? Could anybody please give me a thumbs up? Thank you so much. Okay, so on the top here, you can see we have imported pandas, and then we have loaded our data set, which is in CSV file. And at the beginning, as usual, we are going to inspect our data at a very high level in this case. So we are trying to check how many rows and columns the data has. Okay, so you can see that we have around 34,867 rows and 16 columns. And then we are trying to check DF. DF is our data set, the data frame. Okay, and df.info shows us all the columns, how many non-null values each of the columns have, what is the data type. And then we are checking the df.head, which is the first 5 rows of the data set. So you can see all of the columns look okay, except for the last column, which seems like an unwanted column. And also, since Pandas already assigns automatically the index from 0, we don't need the first column, which is the index column. So it's like a duplication. So maybe we can get rid of these 2 columns. Okay, so that takes us to our example of column modification or column manipulation. So first we will try to delete some columns. And to delete a column is pretty simple. You just say df, which is our data frame, df dot drop. And inside it, we pass on the list of the columns that we want to drop or delete. And then we say axis equals 1. Axis equals 1 means it's column. Axis 0 is the rows. So since we want to drop columns, we say axis equals 1. And then after doing this, when we try to print df.head again, df.head is the first 5 rows of the data set. So we'll run this code. And as you can see, you don't have the last column one, which had the NANs, and the first index column also has been dropped. So this is the before, and this is the after column deletion. Okay. Now, what if we want to add a new column? So for that, again, let me uncomment that. So let's say we want to add a column called as margin, which is a difference of revenue minus cost. Okay, so pretty simple. It's as good as writing a simple math equation. You say df of margin, this is your new column name, and then column revenue minus column cost. And then again, we'll try to print the first 5 lines of the data set with df.head.
Sorry,
Then,
I'm a beginner. Why are you using square brackets? Stupid
okay.
question, I know, but
No question is stupid. This is the basic syntax of Pandas, where, for example, df is your data frame or table in simple words. And when you want to refer to a column within this data frame, we use square brackets. Any part of the data frame with or the table can be accessed using square brackets. That is the rule or syntax of Pandas.
And
Is that
also this, yeah, and also this is how in Python we identify array, because in the from the side of data structure this will be array, and if there will be the curly brackets, they can be the slice or tulip.
okay? Is that okay for you to answer?
really great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I understand now. Thanks.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it's not Python code here. It's what, Panda?
It is
It
Python.
is Python. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
Python.
that's good.
Pandas is a subset of Python.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. So you after I run this code, you can see that the new column margin has been added here. And now, so we saw how to remove or drop a column and add a column. Now we'll see how we can modify an existing column. For that, we will modify the margin column itself, the one that we just added. We want to convert this margin column into a percentage. So for that, we are dividing margin by revenue and then multiplying it by 100. Okay, so margin divided by the revenue column times 100. And then we are out of that, we are putting a parenthesis and we're going to round it to 2 decimal places. Okay, and then after applying this modification to the margin column, we will try to print df.head, which gives us the first 5 rows of our updated data set. So now you can see we have the percentage for the margin. Earlier we had different numbers and now it's in terms of percentage of revenue. Okay. So we saw column dropping, addition of column and modification. Row manipulation is also something similar. So let's quickly go check that out. So how do we decide to which rows to delete? Okay, so we'll take an example for that. So we'll go and check the last few rows. Head gives us the first 5 rows. df.tail gives us the last 5 rows of the table. So when I run this, these are the last 5 rows of the table. And as you can see, the last row seems unwanted, but we are not sure if there are any other rows which have null values or not a number or some inappropriate values. So to check that, to see if any other rows have NaN or null values, we have this equation. Okay, this was something that was covered in our last session. So if you need an explanation, you can refer to the previous recording. But in short, we're trying to say that show me the rows that have null values in any of the columns. So any axis 1 is columns, right? So which are the rows that have null values in any of the columns? Okay. And then if I run this code, you can see that it's just the last row, 34866. Okay. So then we can drop this row because it does not have any value addition. So for that, this is how we delete a row. We say df.drop just like columns. And instead of the column name, we mention the row index. Index is this number, okay, which is tagged to the row. And then axis is 0 because it's a row. So then after applying that deletion, we will try to print the number of rows df.shape, and we will check the last few rows of the table. So now you can see after row deletion, we have the last row is 34865. The total number of rows is now 34866. Okay. So before deletion, we had 34867. This is the number of rows. After deletion, we have one row less. Okay. And this is how we delete a row. And row addition is somewhat similar to column addition. We say, so let's say this is a new row that we want to add. This is a date, year, month, etc. So this is the entire data for a new row, and we are saving it in the variable called new row. Now we want to add this new row to our data frame. For that, we say df.log. .log is a way of accessing the row through labels or index. Okay, so we do df.log, and in the bracket we are saying the length of the data frame, because the length of data frame will return us the total number of rows present in the data frame. So which will be the index of the last row or the new row. Okay. So for example, if I apply length of data frame for this one, so here you can see the last row number is 34865. Length of data frame is going to return 34866, which will be the index of the next row. Okay, so let's run this. Now you can see this new row has been added here. It's not showing all the columns because of the limitation of this window. So you can see that the last, before addition of row, this was the last 34865 last index, and after adding the row, the last index is 34866. Okay. Yes, the data set was uploaded from a CSV from my computer. So it comes from a CSV file. So you can see it here, pd.read CSV, and I've mentioned the file path here. That's how we can read the CSV, and that has been saved in DF data frame.
Are you able to share it, or do we just get one from online?
I'm sorry?
Are you able to share that data set, or is there a place you can point us to download it?
Yes, I can share it maybe after this session in our Slack channel.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. All right. So we saw how to delete row, and then we saw how to add a row. And now we will see how to modify the row. So let's say before modifying it, we will check what is our row with index 1 consists, which is the second row. Please note that the row numbers or the indexing in Python or Pandas starts from 0. So 1 represents the second row, not the first one. So the second row has country United States and Washington. we will try to change it to Germany and Hamburg. I know there are some people from Germany. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, so please bear with me. So to change it, we are saying df.log because we're referring to row, and this is the second row, so the index 1. And we're saying that comma, we're referring the column names here, which we want to change. And we are saying that update the column country and state, row second, to Germany and Hamburg. So when we run that and check what is the second row now, or the row with index 1, you can see that it has been changed from to Germany and Hamburg. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick pause here to check for any questions. Let me see. Are there any questions? Okay, let me proceed then. So now we are going to look at a concept called as multi-indexing. Let me just explain a little bit using slides before we look at the actual code. 1 second, sorry. Yeah. So these, okay. So multi-indexing. So we know right now that indexing is nothing but a method of accessing the data from a data frame or a table. So multi-indexing, as the name suggests, is trying to index the data frame using multiple columns. Okay, so multi-index can be called also as a hierarchical index or an index with multiple levels. For example, let's say we have this example. Let's look at the example on the slide here. So we have a sales data. Maybe you have a sales data with different levels like year and categories. You might have subcategory, product category, product subcategory, and then you may also have country, state, and city. So we may want to analyze the data at different levels, and multi-index helps us in such cases. Like for this example, you can see the index without multi-index before. We just have one flat indexing, which is the number 0 through 5. And in that case, the indexing or accessing the data becomes a little bit cumbersome. But when we use multi-index, you can see we get an index of multiple levels. So I can check what is the sales data for 2020 electronics, what is the sales data for 2021 electronics for America or Germany. Okay, so we will have more clarity when we look at the example in the code. To create multi-index, there are several methods. There are 3 methods, that is set index, multi-index from product, multi-index from tuples. Set index is when we create a multi-index like this using the existing columns from our data set, like the one we see here in the image. From product and from tuples are basically multi-index created using a customized data set. For example, from product, you may use it when you want to have all possible combinations of year and product category. Maybe you're trying to forecast a data for a certain number of years and all product categories. And in that case, you want to list out all the combinations. So in that case, we can use from product. From tuples is only used when you have customized set of indexes required. For example, maybe you want to have a combination of certain specific years and best-selling product category or best-selling product subcategory. So in these cases, you want to just focus on specific targets. So in such cases, we can use multi-index from tuples. Okay, so let's head to the pie chart and we will see an example of multi-indexing. Okay, so first I would like to show you how we could access data without using multi-index. Okay, so for our data set or our table, if we want to see the sales data for 2016, the year 2016, normally without multi-index, this is how we mention it. df of year equals 2016. Okay, we use this condition and I run that. Okay, so I get all the data for 2016 here, the sales data. Now I want to see next the sales data for just the bikes, product category equals bikes. Okay, when I run that, I get all the sales data for bikes here. Okay, now if I want to combine these two, I will use an AND condition. I'll say give me the data for year equals 2016 and product category equals bikes. So I'll run that and I get the data for sales data for bikes in 2016. Okay, so this is without multi-indexing. And when we use multi-index, the code will become simplified, which we will see now. Okay, so first let's look at the first few rows. Okay, so before multi-indexing, this is how our data set looks like. This is how our data set looks like, right? So now to create multi-index using set index, okay, we say df.setIndex, and I want to create a multi-index using year, product category, and country. Okay, so I'm going to run that. And after that, I'm saying df.sortIndex. This is basically after creating the index, multi-index, we're asking pandas to sort them in alphabetical or in order of the index levels. I'll tell you the reason in a bit, which is also here in the comments. Okay, so let's print that. So this is how it looks like after creating the multi-index. We have year, product category, and country. You can see that these index names are slightly lower than the column names, and these are the columns, and this is our multi-index. Okay, so this is how it looks like for the first few rows. We can also try to see about 20 rows here. df.head 20 will give us the first 20 rows. So let's do 100 maybe. Yes, no, okay, I'm sorry about that. So basically that is how the multi-index looks like. Do we have any questions? Yes,
Yeah.
Nakshita?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, sorry, just in the previous slide, when you are setting an index,
Mm-hmm.
uh, can we also put all the columns? Just asking
You
as a
mean
hypothesis.
in here in setting
Yeah,
index?
yeah,
Yes, you could, but in the end, there should be at least one of them with values, right?
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can do a number of columns that are present, and for a
Yes.
minimum, uh, we have to give at least one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. So, yeah, so this is how we create the multi-index using set index. And the reason we are sorting here the index is because Pandas prefers the lexicographically, that is sorted index, which is sorted in order of its index levels. The reason behind that is whenever we are trying to access the data, if it's not started, Pandas takes a lot of time to look up for the data if it's not sorted. So to avoid that, it is always important to sort the index. Okay, so we saw how to create the multi-index, and now we'll see how to use it to access the data. So we'll try to access the same data that we looked earlier, right? 2016 and bikes. So for that, let me remove this. You just have to say df.log and then mention whatever conditions you want. For year, it's 2016 and bikes. So let me remove this Germany. Okay. So this is how we can get 2016 bikes sales data. And then we can also add the third level of index, which is the country. So if we put Germany, we'll get the data filtered for these three indexes. So this is like the because of multi-index, we are able to access it with simplified indexing or simplified code. Okay, so now what if we see that we can access, if we remove this Germany, which is the lowest level of index, we can see 2016 bikes. If I remove bikes, we can see the highest level, which is the sales data for 2016. Okay, so let me undo that. Okay, but if I remove 2016 and try to see bikes and Germany sales data, we're going to get an error because this is how it works. Multi-indexing, it always like drills down from the higher level to the lower level of multi-index. So we can't go the other way. So if we still want to access the lower level data and ignoring the higher level, in that case, we use something called as .xs. .xs stands for cross section. Okay, so to access, for example, if you want to look at all the data for bikes, then we say df.xs, not log, df.xs, and then we give the criteria, the word that we want to filter for, which is bikes, and then we mention which level it is residing in. So bikes is under product category, so we mention that level. And now it gives us the sales data for bikes, ignoring the year and ignoring the country. Okay, so here it is. This is all the data for bikes, ignoring the year and country. Okay. The next method of accessing the data is called as slicing. We have introduced slicing in our previous sessions, but let me just explain it with this context. Okay, so if we want to see sales data for 2015 onwards, we can say df.log and then 2015, which is our first level of data, and then colon. Colon is what is a symbol that is used for slicing, which is basically used in when we are trying to access a range of data. So this here means that show me all the data 2015 onwards. So starting from 2015. Okay, so that gives us the data 2015 onwards. And the next example for slicing is if I want to access the data for all clothing in France, and we want to ignore the year. Basically, we want to say that all years clothing in France. So here, like we did in excess or cross section, we want to have or ignore the filter for year, right? So in this case, we use something called as slice none. Okay, so we say df.log, then in parentheses, you mention for the year slice none, and then clothing for the product category. For the country, we say France, and then colon represents basically all the data. Okay, all the columns. Okay. So this is what we get. Basically, it gives clothing and France data, wildcard for year. Okay, similarly, if we want to just have the data for France, we can replace clothing with slice none. And then I run that. Sorry, I think I missed out on the parentheses. Yeah. Okay. So now it considers all of the year, all the product categories, and the country is filtered for France. Okay. So that is how we access data using slicing. Okay, before I go to the next method of creating multi-index, which we will look at in the exercises of this Gateway to Pandas course, I want to ask if anybody has any questions. Okay, so should I continue with the next topic quickly then? Can anybody give me a thumbs up? Okay, thank you. All right. So the next topics, which is creating multi-index using using product and tuples, we will see that in our exercise under Gateway to Pandas. Let me see. Okay, 1 second. I need to change the view. Exit presentation mode. Yeah, I have it open here already. Okay. Yeah. So here I'm going to use a different smaller data set because it requires some a specific list or a specific data set to create tuples or create in multi-index from product. So this is our data set. We have 3 lists in it. One is city and category and sales. So to create multi-index, we will use city and category. We will use these to create our multi-index, and the sales will be our values or data. Okay, so first we will create a data frame using this data by saying df equals to pd.data frame, and we pass on this data. So that creates our data frame, which is referred as df. Okay, so PD, DF, these are all globally used conventions in Pandas Python. Okay, so first let's see how to create a multi-index using from product. Okay, so to create that, first we need a list of unique values of city and category. So here we are saying df of city dot unique, which will give us the unique value of cities. Similarly, df category dot unique will return us a unique list of categories. Then we are going to use these two lists in creating the multi-index. So for that, we say pd dot multi-index from product, pass on the two lists, and then you can mention the name of the two levels of multi-index. The first level is city and the second one is category. So what this does is it creates all combinations of cities and categories. Okay. For tuples, it's something similar. Here we are creating tuples of the unique names of city and category, which will return what we want to pass as variables here. And you can see the syntax is similar, only the last term is changing. So multi-index dot from tuples, we are passing on this list of tuples, and then again mentioning the name. First level is city, second level is category. Now we will just try and print these two multi-indexes to see how they look. Okay, so you can see this is the multi-index created using from product and tuples. Both the outputs are the same. Okay, combination of all the cities and categories. And then when we apply it to the data set, this is how it looks with the multi-index. Level 1 is city and the second level is category. Okay, but when we're referring to the levels, we can either say level city and level category, or city will be level 0 and category will be level 1. Okay, which we will see in the further examples. Let me go back to our main exercise here. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. The next concept is something called as stacking and unstacking. I want to just take a pause here to see if we have any questions. I can see some comments in the message boxes. Mm. Oh, I'm not sure I understand the. Please provide me with access to your site. Ah, okay. It won't allow me to log in with Google Alias. Okay. SJP, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get back to you towards the end of the session with the access issue. Okay. Any other questions related to whatever we covered so far? Yes, Nakshita?
Yeah, just one question. I wanted to know, so far we have studied three creation of multi-index methods of multi-index creation.
Yes.
And what scenarios would we use for each? Like, in which conditions we would use each?
Yes. So, for example, like I said, set index, the first method that we use, we will usually use it when we want to create the index using the columns that we have in our data set, right? So like what we did in our example. Whereas for from product, if there is, like I gave an example, right? So if let's say you have a data or you want to forecast the sales for some years, and you have a certain product categories of your company, and maybe you want to use that data to for machine learning or just to analyze forecast data. So in that case, you cannot use just the data from the data set you have, because you want to look at all the combinations, right? So in that case, you can use the from product, all the combinations, right? And the other example is like you have a specific set of data and you want to only analyze or try to analyze a specific set of product categories, or one or two product that you want to focus on, bestseller, or which you hope will be the bestseller, and for the specific year or for specific quarters. So in that case, we would go for the tuples, from tuples. We don't want to bother about the rest of the combinations.
Okay,
Does that
thank you
help?
so much. Yeah,
Okay,
it does.
thank you. Thank you. All right, so moving on. The next concept is stacking and unstacking, which is basically transforming or reshaping and shaping the data in different ways. Let me go to the slides now for that. Okay, we are here at data manipulation. Yes, okay. Stacking and unstacking, basically they're opposite of each other. In stacking, what we do is the columns are moved to rows, okay? And in unstacking, so I'll just say it in a simple way right now. Stacking, columns are moved to rows, and unstacking, they go from rows to columns, okay? And now we will try to look at it at a deeper level, slightly deeper level, okay? So here we have our multi-index data, right? Sales data. When we do stacking, you can see this is the result, the image at the center. The columns have moved to the rows or indexes, okay? And they are stacked on top of each other, multi-level. So so the columns move to the rows or converted into rows, and they are stacked at in a hierarchical level. Okay, so that is stacking. Unstacking is basically undoing this. Here, rows, you can see the sales and profit have again become rows, or some existing rows can move to become columns. Okay, in stacking, when we stack, the data becomes longer and narrower, and when we unstack, the data becomes wider. Okay, So when I share the slides, I have tried to put a lot of example screenshots here, and so that you get an idea, different types of combinations of stacking and unstacking. But let's now move on to the PyCharm file. So I'm just trying to look at the time now. We might exceed a couple of minutes. Is that okay with everyone? This is the last concept that we'll cover, and we'll go ahead with question and answers. Okay, thank you so much for your cooperation. All right, let me go to our PyCharm file. Okay, where is stacking and unstacking? Aha, okay, so before that, I wanted to show you this one also. Resetting the index. So when we do multi-indexing, if we want to undo that, then we can do df.resetIndex, which will bring back our data set to the non-multi-index form, which is like the flat index form. Okay, this will reset our data frame. All right, so now let's go to stacking and unstacking here. What's this? Why do I have this here? Sorry, excuse me. I think I lost my track of thoughts. Sorry, I'm just trying to fix all this so that we don't have any issues with our code df.multi. Okay. Okay, so we reset our index here, and we are trying to reduce our data frame print. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so basically what I'm trying to do here is, after resetting the index, I'm trying to take a smaller subset of the sales data to demo the stacking and unstacking. So what I did here is, first, before applying any multi-index, I reset it like that to make it all flat like before. And then I applied a multi-index for year, product category, and subcategory. After which we get this. So this is our before stacking data. Okay. Now, okay, so this is our before stacking data. We have year, product category, and subcategory is all our multi-index. Cost and revenue are our data columns. Okay. Now to stack this, we have a simple line of code, which is we give the data index, data frame name, which is df underscore multi-index 3. This is our current data frame, and just say dot stack, and then we will print that out. Okay, so this is how it looks after stacking. Okay, you can see before the cost and revenue were columns. Now they are converted into stacked rows, right? Now, next, we will try to see, there is one more step. So here, when we apply stacked, the reason we have these lines of code is, when we apply stack, what it returns is called as a series. So in order to work with it further, here I'm trying to convert it back to a data frame, this one. Okay, so if I run this code, This is where we stack date. Then here we are checking the data type for that, which it says is a series. So series, and then we are doing df stacked to frame. We are converting it into a data frame. So next, after that, when we check, it is now a data frame. Now we can use it for unstacking. Okay. So let me do that. And for unstacking, you just say the data frame name, which is df stack dot unstacked dot unstack, and then ignore this. Let me remove this. Okay, so when I say dot unstack, now you can see the cost and revenue are back as columns like before. So stack, this becomes rows, and unstack, if we unstack the same thing, they go back as columns. Now, what did I have here within the brackets or parentheses? So I'm trying to say here, when we unstack without any condition within the parenthesis, all the, both the rows which were stacked went back to as columns. Now, when I say level and run it, let's see what happens. I'm saying level 0 and 3, right? So now what happened here is level 0 is our first level, which was year. So that has now become a column from row. And then level 3 was what it was our subcategory. So even that, level 3 was the cost and revenue, which have come up here. So before the unstacking, this is our data, right? So level 0 is year, 1 product category, subcategory is level 2, and cost and revenue are level 3. Okay, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So if I change this to 0 and 2, then we should have year and subcategory will turn into columns, right? So you can see year and subcategory. We have them as columns here, and all the rest of the data are appearing as rows. Okay. So I tried to cover what was planned for today's session. I'm happy to answer if there are any questions. Yes, let me go back to this slide. Yes, so as you can see, we have many examples here. And now it's time for questions if anybody has. So if you're joining for the first time, and if you're at a beginner level, or you feel like some of the terminologies were not